I wanted to talk a little bit about Pluto, because I know that you said as a traditionalist, you don't necessarily associate Pluto with Scorpio, but I do really resonate with, these Plutonian goddesses, Pele in the Hawaiian tradition, Kali in the Hindu tradition. We could look at Oya in the Yoruba tradition,
Lilith,
Lilith
Babylonian and
tradition,
Hebrew tradition. Mm-hmm.
what we call these like dark goddesses, and that association with the underworld and this association with this kind of raw passion. And I love in Game of Thrones the image of Daenerys, burning down King's Landing, because I think that there's a something there around this intensity, around the ability to forcibly release whatever doesn't serve us, and or for that to be forcibly taken from us, unwillingly or unwillingly. And so this season gives us a moment to reconcile with that kind of power, with that kind of intensity, and to also reconnect to, that these are still deities. So even if the action seems like it's like this, wrathful thing, that it's really coming from a place of necessity and tuning into what's essential. And so can we do that with a light heart, or, as they say in the Kemetic tradition, light as a feather? Can I forcibly remove something from my life, or forcefully let something go, but not do it from a place of anger or rage, but doing it from a place of absolute knowing of what's essential? So that's another piece of what we're exploring this cycle with sweet release.
I think we can. I think that takes practice, or like a quantum leap in consciousness, which both can happen at any given moment. It happened for the Buddha. But I think the practice is, with those little things,
Yeah.
Or implementing as part of a routine meditation, or some moments of reflection on what you're doing and why.
One of the practices that we're going to be doing this month is the 9 purification breaths, which comes out of the Tibetan tradition. And that is an energetic practice. I like to say that you can do it as a full hour-long meditation, or you can do it as a 2-minute morning quickie, whatever you have time for. But it is a meditation practice that cleanses the energetic channels. And we'll talk about them. One is the channel for desire and attachment. One is the channel for anger, and then also clearing the channels of ignorance. And the thing is that a lot of this work isn't about what we know and what we don't know, because you can say, oh, I shouldn't be mad, or I'm going to be peaceful, or I'm going to forgive, and all of that bullshit. We can say that to the cows come home, but it's really an energetic thing. And until we move the energies, really bring them into introspection, which is what I love about the meditation, that nothing really changes. And again, I think that that's another hallmark of Scorpio, this ability to honor, how the body talks, to honor the depths of emotion and not try to bypass them, but to really work with those energies.
You're saying it exactly how I would want to say, but one thing I would want to add is that the key thing with water and water signs is just to be present with them. Don't think they have to go anywhere, do something. That's kind of the gift of water. It's like learning to be present with the experience, the feeling. I mean, so I think that's key. Yeah.
I just had I wouldn't say an argument or a fight, but that was just the thing for me last night, because I was in my feelings and I was crying, and my boo was like, oh, let's go do, such and such. Like, in other words, like, let's break you out of this, like, scorpionic funk that you're in. And I'm like, I just want to cry. Just sit here and let me cry. So that presence is, there's nothing to change here. Let's just be with this grief until it passes.
We can host particular emotions as guests, and some guests just shouldn't stay that long, right? And some guests you have to kind of like, you get the message, or hear them out, or give them their tea, or like entertain them for a while. Like, I chill with anger for a little bit, like, yeah, blah, blah. All right, yeah, it's got to get out now. Thank you. Yeah. So move on out, So, but you have to have some hosting spirit toward them.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're allowed and you're welcome. You just can't run amok.
Right. You know, like
you can't tear up my house.
Just ask me before you go in the fridge. Thanks.
What we're essentially talking about with the Mercury retrograde is that our Mercury consciousness is stopping from speeding forward and moving back towards the sun.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, your panic is unnecessary, because you're really, again, going along with Scorpionic themes. You don't want to change or reset how you're engaging the world through your mercurial means. So that's where people have this resistance, rather than recognizing like, well, maybe I do need to leave earlier, or think about how I'm getting from point A to B. Because Mercury rules all things that go from point A to B, whether we're talking about communication, whether we're talking about commuting, the three comms I call them: communication, commuting, or commerce. So, you know, how you buy something. So that's why people say like, oh, be careful about buying things, or don't buy anything during Mercury retrograde. It's not that, you know, your life can't stop. It's not like don't buy something. Be aware as you buy something, right? Be aware as you sign, you know, that new lease for an apartment. It doesn't mean then that you can't, you know, like you don't do weird stuff. I mean, people do, but weird stuff like, you know, tell your potential landlord, like, listen, I want to get a new apartment. I want to like get the keys, but I can't sign it until like the 20th. Is that cool? So you can't put everything on hold. It's kind of recognizing, well, you might have another set of eyes look at this contract.
Yeah.
You might also, it can work in your favor. It's a good time to also renegotiate things.
Yeah.
You know? So all the words get used with Mercury retrograde, you know, renegotiate, review, resurrect. You know, that's why sometimes your exes come out of the woodwork. Be like, hey, how you doing? What you doing? You know, so it's kind of the thing. But just because you're dealing with a review or the return of something, you don't necessarily have to have a repeat.
The words that I associate or think about with Mercury retrograde, which I personally love Mercury retrograde because it gives me the kairos, or the opportunity to stop speeding along from an ego perspective and to reflect, renew, reconsider, to slow down, to move a little more slowly, to move from my intuition a little bit more than my logic, and to explore the places where my logic might be a little faulty. You know, so I love Mercury retrograde periods for that. And it's interesting because one of the flower essences in the Exhale formula is called chestnut bud, which is really a flower essence that we use to renew themes that are showing up over and over again in our life, so that we can look at them from a new perspective. So that's
perfect. Yeah.
In sync this season, cosmically and seasonally.
Yep. So it goes retrograde on Halloween. I don't know. Some people are spooked by that, but I mean, it's just a day. But it does go retrograde on the 31st. And I think it stays retrograde until the 20th. Do
we need to worry about the shadow? People talk about the shadow of Mercury, or they blame all, I mean, I do it too. Like every time something goes wrong, I'm like, that damn Mercury.
The shadow. I mean, I can use it more so as a contemplative presage to the Mercury retrograde. And then to think about, to meditate and reflect on what you experienced during the Mercury retrograde. Mm-hmm. But the whole caution and like, oh, this is going to happen, blah, blah. Let's leave the fear behind, you know, rather than beware all the time, be aware.
I love that. So we have some really great dates for this lunar cycle. We have the new moon in Scorpio. Mm-hmm. Well, first we'll say the sun went into Scorpio on October 23rd.
Yeah.
And then the moon met up and is having a little rendezvous with the sun on Sunday, October 27th.
Yeah.
Then we have Mercury going retrograde on October 31st for 3 weeks. And then we have the full moon in Taurus on Tuesday, November 13th. Right. So those are some days to mark on your calendar. New Moonifestation subscribers, on the new moon, you start your flower essences and download the reflection questions. Also posted some great reading assignments if you want to delve into the art of letting go. And then on the full moon, we'll have our little full moon powwow, as well as our meditation and other goodies. So we're all set for the cycle. We're
Great.
ready.
And you guys can check me out if you want to get a consultation at unlockastrology.com.
I need actually to schedule 2 of those because I like to get a reading every year for my birthday. And so
let's make it happen.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And don't forget, watch both videos, and we will see you online.
See you online.